Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining in today. I can see attendees are popping in here, so welcome. My name is Jennifer McCraw, and I am the Marketing and Partnerships Coordinator here at Upward Sports. Thanks for tuning in to today's live webinar. Our webinar topic today is something I'm super excited about. It is attracting and ministering to the older athlete. And the older athlete, you may ask, is 6th grade and up. So I have some experts in the field here with me today. I want to introduce these lovely gentlemen to you, and we'll start. We have Dr. David Pierce. He is the Director of Sports Innovation at Indiana University, Purdue University in Indianapolis. So David, welcome. We're glad you could join us today. I think you're muted, so you guys will have to unmute.
Okay.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
We also have longtime league directors on with us. We have Co Claver with First Baptist Church in Laurel, Maryland. Hey, Co, thanks for joining in.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And we have Jay Gordon. Jay is another longtime league director, and he is with Grace Mennonite Church in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. Welcome, Jay.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Great to be here.
We're glad you're here. And then also I have my teammate, Joel Flauher. He is over our market research department here at Upward Sports and brings a wealth of knowledge, and I thought he would really benefit our group coming in. And we also have some sneak peeks for you that he'll talk about at the end. So welcome, Joel.
Good to see everybody. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome. So today I want to make our time as useful as we can. If you have questions, we're going to open up at the very end for questions. So anybody that is on right now, you can put your questions in the chat box. So put those questions there, and we'll try to get to as many as we can at the conclusion of the webinar. Also, I want to know where you're from. So we are giving away a wonderful Upward Sports swag bag at the end of today's webinar. So in the chat box, put your name and your church name. And at the end, I'll draw, and you will get the swag bag with 2 Upward Sports pieces of apparel, long sleeve t-shirts. So let me know where you're from. I see one, Kyle Oakley. Welcome. We're glad you're here. So tell me where you're from in the chat box, and I will definitely draw some names. But before we get started, our goal here is to talk about how do we attract and minister to older athletes for the purpose of serving them and sharing the gospel. So I hope today's webinar is very successful for you. I'm going to turn it over here for the next couple of minutes to Dr. David Pierce. He has some national data that he has pulled, and that he does a lot of extensive research in sports trends. So David, take it away. Tell us what you're seeing and the void that you're seeing for these older athletes.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. I'll kind of talk about the big picture of where intramural sports fits into the sports landscape, and then we've got Co and Jay to follow up with the the ministry angle and aspect, and delivering on the ground. So I think the best way to kind of think about this or visualize it, there's an organization called Project Play with the Aspen Institute that does a lot of promotion of issues and problems and how to fix various things in youth sports. So you can kind of picture this model right here of kids being squeezed out of the sports system. So, at the younger ages, there are recreational opportunities at the bottom of that triangle, but as you get older, those participation opportunities narrow, right? So travel sports, then cuts in the school base, and then obviously fewer and fewer people playing in college and pro. So you've got kids that are pushed aside who want to play, whether that's kids with disabilities, those who maybe just didn't quite make the cut for that travel team or that school-based team. Maybe those who are focused on one sport but are burnt out and they want to do something different. Maybe the kid that grows 6 inches, they're sophomore year of high school, they're the late bloomer athlete, right? And there's socioeconomic issues in there as well. So intramurals really kind of fits in. I kind of have that located right here, right? It's kind of like filling that gap or extending those participation opportunities through high school for, as Jennifer said, that 6th to 12th grade. So it's just kind of a visual to kind of picture this triangle that is pushing kids out. So what Project Play actually promotes and talks about at a national level is the idea of squaring that pyramid where you have everybody, focused on physical literacy, physical activity, and sport and recreation up to age 12, focus on ability, confidence, and just desire to be active. And then a vast array of recreational opportunities beyond that, which is what we don't have right now in the current model. And that's really where, Upward and other community-based recreation and sport programs can fill in the void and the need. So just look at some data just to kind of prove the point. I guess if we look at pretty much any demographic group, you can look at gender, you can look at income, you can look at race, and you've got fewer kids ages 13 to 17 participating today than you did in 2012. So the graph here, the red bar is participation in 2012, and then the blue bars are 2020 and 2021. So, the idea here is that, cuts have always been happening in school-based teams starting in middle school. That's not a new thing, but with the significant rise in travel sports, it is forcing athletes out of community-based sports participation opportunities at an even earlier age. So whereas in the, 80s and 90s, you might, recall being able to play whatever sport in your community through about 15 or 16 years old. Right now, that is not the case in most sports, right? Past fifth grade, if you haven't made the local travel team, there's no more or fewer community-based opportunities. And that's where there's a huge opportunity space from a sports perspective for Upward to fill that gap. If we look then at those numbers by sport and who's lost the most 13 to 17-year-olds playing, it is in baseball, almost 2 million down compared to 5 years ago, I believe. And that is, not surprising if you're familiar with baseball. It's probably bought into the travel model the most. So no surprise then that they have fewer people who are continuing to participate. But you can see other sports are down as well. And then, there are a few that have increased, like track and field has seen the most increase in that. But baseball significantly the worst. They're followed by soccer, gymnastics, basketball, flag football, golf, and ice hockey. So just looking at the overall, the benefits to sport participation at this age. I mean, a lot of this stuff would align with any sort of physical activity or sport, but kind of bucket one, is just in the idea of competition and skill development, but doing it in a fun and less pressure-packed environment than maybe the school-based or the travel team focused on winning in championships. So fun, fitness, the idea that you're competing, but with less pressure. Second thing is, doing it with others, right? So social connection, having a sense of belonging, confidence in that sport or that skill. And then just, for some kids, it's just an opportunity to get away and escape the other pressure that you're under. And then the last bucket would be along the lines of leadership, communication, teamwork, character, all those things that everybody says that, get developed through sport. But the problem with most sport teams and, organizations are no one actually does anything intentional to make those things happen. But, Upward has written, great curriculum at the elementary level. I know there's some exciting things happening here at these older levels now from a curriculum perspective. So the intentionality that Upward brings to the table stands out and is a point of differentiation from other community-based sport participation opportunities that people have. Is that, historically, you guys have been very intentional about pulling those things out of kids. So maybe another thing to think about is like the types of target markets or maybe user personas, market segments, or like who are the different people that are coming in. I'm sure you can put a name and a face to each of these. This isn't a comprehensive list. This is just to kind of get your creative juices going about who you're reaching out to and trying to connect with. There's that late bloomer athlete who maybe realizes their body is different all of a sudden in 8th grade than it was in 7th grade, but they've missed all of those travel team opportunities. So where do you go to go get better at something and try it out? Some athletes may see it valuable for cross training, right? So maybe they play one sport, but they can do a kind of an intramural or, less pressure sport so they can get better at their speed or at their agility or their teamwork or their leadership or whatever it may be. It could be kids that, just missed that cut in 7th grade. They want to come back and make the team in 8th grade. And, Upward is the place where they can, go play ball for 3 or 4 months and fill the gap and get ready for the next tryout, right? You could see kids that are rehabbing after an injury. You said people that just love the game, right? It doesn't even matter what sport it is. Maybe it says down there they're competitive. They just want to compete. Doesn't matter what game it is. Some people, you got kids that just want to learn something new, right? So they got burned out playing baseball. They quit in 7th grade. Their parents push them too hard, and it's like, I just want to do something new and compete. And then you've always got FOMO, right? So once you get a few kids doing it, there's a buzz about it, and kids don't want to miss out on what their friends are doing. I had the opportunity to put together a strategic plan for this is not a faith-based organization, but it's one that's doing intramurals at scale. Serving over 2,000 kids in the high school setting in a suburban community in Indianapolis. We did some research with that group and found out the top 5 reasons why kids are playing. Number 1 is to play with friends. 2 is to do something together. 3 is to compete. 4 is to win. But again, it's that winning, but that context of less pressure to do so. It's the fun of winning, not just to do it. And then, just pushing yourself to get better at something, no matter what that is. It just happens to be sports. In terms of the sports that were most popular or they wanted to see rolled out in their school system was flag football, volleyball, kickball, soccer, basketball, and then baseball, but not necessarily the full, 9-on-9 big diamond. Could be a variation of softball, different rules, wiffle ball, those types of things. And there's just practical questions of like, when is the best time to do this? It was stood out by far for this group anyway. It was Sunday and Sunday night, and I know Co and Jay can maybe unpack that a little bit later. This group had a preference for co-ed. Obviously, there's some competitive things, some skill things, there's some safety things, maybe some rule modifications. There's context is important there for your programming and number of registrants and a lot of different factors to consider. And then the social media channel that was clearly the most popular to get that message was Instagram. So if you were going to invest in a social presence, do it on Instagram. Last few things here. Nice thing about Upward is you can really be different and solve some of the problems or concerns that parents have. So this is some project play data about what moms are most concerned about. If you look at the first 4 things on there, those are things that Upward can differentiate on, right? Emphasis on winning. So their concerns are emphasis on winning over having fun, time commitment, cost, and then quality or behavior of coaches. All those things are things that Upward can be different with. My challenge to the group after talking to this group and whatnot over the yesterday and then thinking about this stuff for today is if we really believe that we can teach or learn character through sports, all kids should be able to have spiritual leaders who can speak into their lives, and that's where Upward steps in. So my challenge for the group is to consider this question: how might we create sports experiences for 12 to 17-year-olds that allow them to build character, receive spiritual mentorship, and compete? So I know there's maybe some of the things now that Co and Jay are going to unpack for us a little bit more.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, David. I do have some questions coming in, so we'll try to get to those at the end. A lot of people are asking, can we get the slides that you just presented? So yes,
Sure.
David will send those to me and I'll put those in an email to the group that'll go out today as a recap. Let's open this up. Let's unpack a little bit of this before we talk about ministering to them. I loved the questions that you ended with, and you gave us a great challenge. We had some great conversation around this yesterday. Jay, Co, Joel, let's talk a little bit about the whole competition that we've seen that David presented, as well as the thing that came up yesterday was like, wow, we didn't think about Sunday. So let's talk about it. Bring some of your concerns and share some things.
Well, we started our league 14 years ago, and we've been K-8 for all those 14 years. About 4 years ago, we decided to expand beyond 8th grade and offer flag football to high school students. And, we did it because we had requests from parents, and I'm going to read one of those in a minute here. But we were kind of afraid that going into it, that this would become an elite thing, that this was being driven by kids who were wanting to be serious about the game and compete at a higher level, and that this would turn into kind of a high level competitive league. That has proved not to be the case. And what David said about these kids wanting to compete but have less pressure and have fun and have social interaction, we have found that to be the case, in our spring league, which is, as opposed to the fall league, which is our K-8 league. Our spring league is for the high school kids. And, they just want to go out and have some fun and play a game that they love. They play at a pretty high level, I would say, and the competition is good, but that's not why they're there. They're not there to have an elite athlete experience. They're there to have fun with their friends and play a sport that they love.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. So for us here in Maryland, in Laurel, Maryland, where we're located, we run 3 sports programs. We run basketball in the winter, soccer in the spring, and in the fall season we have flag football. And we're actually entertaining volleyball through the summer evenings, actually, to do that as well. What we came to find out really is in our program, also running K4 through 8th grade, that competition really picks up at the middle school level. That's where they're much more driven in competition. But we have always taken the position and the mindset that it's ministry over sports. So yeah, we want to have a competitive level within the middle school. So we went with soccer real quickly to 11 versus 11 on a full scale field, on a high school size field for that. So what we're doing is in the mornings, we run our smaller fields, and then by 12 o'clock, 12:30, we're done. And then we open it up for full field games. And this spring we'll have 6 teams on 11 versus 11 right there. So it's a nice division to have. But the objective that we want to provide for the parents is to have that wholesome family ministry. So when I look at putting the teams together, I spend time to make sure that the siblings on the different age levels all practice on the same night. Because I almost make a promise to the mom saying, hey, you'll have one pizza night for your family where you guys have to run out and not have to run out 4 nights a week because you got kids at different teams. So those are just the things where I say family ministry over sports, but you want to keep it competitive at all times.
Yeah, I would say too, that's one of the things in talking to league directors. I've been making some phone calls about middle and high school students playing in sports. And one of the big things that keeps coming up is they want to have fun and they want to compete. And I think to Jay's point, it's a competition level that does not come with that extreme pressure, that they can invite friends, that they get to know everybody, but they want a level of competition that makes them feel as though you care about them learning and growing. And so that fun and competition really stand out to people from people who are already doing middle and high school leagues.
Let's talk about the Sunday aspect. That was a big deal as we were looking through the slides yesterday as a group. A lot of us on here were like, okay, well, Monday night practice is probably better, or Thursday. Let's discuss Sunday. Jay and Co, tell me how that surprised you and the opportunity that's there.
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that was an organization that was not faith-based, as Dave pointed out. I was surprised. It's something I would love to consider for our kids, but I think I feel like we get pushback on Sunday. Sunday night, maybe a slightly different animal. I don't know, but I feel like, our league, I would say roughly 50% are church kids and 50% are unchurched kids. And I feel like from the 50% of church kids, we'd probably get some pushback on a Sunday night practice or game from that church group. But I don't see us ever playing Sunday afternoon games. I know some of our competitors do, and that fits well for parents. I'm not going to lie. That's an advantage for a lot of parents, but I just don't see us going wholesale into that. But a Sunday night practice, I'd have to think about that and test that with some folks.
For me, I was very surprised when I saw Dave's piece there, and when I was trying to get a high school program going in soccer. I had a lot of competition during the weekday in matters of kids having school, having other things going on. On Saturdays, I found out that a lot of kids at the high school level, they either were working at a local farm market or one of the fast food joints or at the supermarket bagging, something like that. And I was hard pressed trying to find a good slot to make things happen. Until yesterday, when they mentioned Sunday evening, I'm like, wow, why didn't I think of that? So here I'm thinking that's the Lord's day, you know, Coach's going to chill out because that's my day. But this is still ministry. So I'm going to explore that. I'm going to explore that further and deeper, because I think there is an opportunity there for these kids to, it's definitely at the high school level, to do something there.
Yeah, it feels like too, in talking to league directors, you know, they mentioned that middle and high school has to be different. And part of that difference is you can do ministry when they're available. And so that might be a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday night. So I think it's something worth exploring.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. Let's talk about that, Joel, where you just said it needs to look different.
Mhm.
When you're attracting these older age group athletes, which we're talking 6th grade and up, you may on here be running a recreation kindergarten through 5th grade right now, upward sports recreation, where they are introducing the sport in this very introductory. Joel, I want to pass to you for a second and talk about what you are seeing as you're interviewing churches that are doing middle school and high school, how it has to look different, it has to feel different, it can't be seen or even be perceived as the same. Can you speak to that for me?
Yeah, that's a great. What league directors are saying is just that it needs to be different, and that looks different on the ministry side of things. It looks different on the sports side of things, and so from a sports perspective, they want to make sure that there are quality officials and referees for the game. You have to have officials that know the game, that will call a game the way it's supposed to be called, because at that level of high school play, you have young men out there on the court or on the field, and so you have to enforce the rules so things don't get out of control. Like we mentioned earlier, that level of fun and competition needs to be there, and so that competition is usually a little higher. So it's important to not back away from that and to incorporate competition into what you're doing. I think the other thing that's different, or another thing that's different, are the role of coaches. So the coaches become more of a mentor to their team, and so they're spending more time with the devotions that they might have at practice, or devotions might look different altogether. You might have devotions before games or at the start of practice for those older age kids, because once they get into the competition on a game day, for example, they're really focused, and so it's harder to break at the midway point and then get back to the game. I'll share a quick story. There was a league director that I talked to, and she had 22 girls in their middle and high school division. And what they did is they said, all right, let's have 2 available nights of practice. Players can come either night. And then on Saturday, we're going to break up the teams for games. And so different weeks, you could have different players on teams. And the coaches just took that as, we're going to teach the skills. We're also going to be mentors to these girls. And so from a spiritual perspective, we want to invest that time with those players. A big piece of that is you need to allow for the discussions to take place. Middle and high schoolers have been in school all day, and so they want to be able to share their thoughts on different topics. And so you need coaches who are ready and willing to step in to those conversations and allow them to happen. Allow that discussion so that kids can feel heard and valued with what you're doing in ministry.
I love that. He talked about quality coaches. It's got to be fun. It has to be high level competition, coaches that mentor, and we have to be flexible. So it does have to look and feel different. One thing we talked about, Joel, just now was the coaches and how coaches mentor these players. Yesterday when you and I were talking through this, you talked about how you have to have coaches that are in the right place and the importance of having coaches that mentor. Can you speak to that and the importance that you see in your league?
Absolutely. The coaches are tremendously important in mentoring these kids on these teams. And that already starts at K4, K5 when they kind of enter in the league when the children are young. And these coaches, they grow along with our upwards league in such a way that, K4, K5, they start. And, I usually call that herding the cats in the first couple of years. Then after that, you get more instruction. And what I always look for is to bring that next coach, the rookie coach, next to an experienced coach. I will never put a rookie coach in leadership of a team because they have to learn through one whole season the different ways we do these things within upward sports. And it works really well that way. And once they grow into third and fourth grade, where competition starts picking up a little bit more, then you got to get your referees lined up a little bit better as well. But then as soon as you go to middle school, these coaches have already had 3-4 years worth of coaching experience. Now they're ready for that middle school league where it becomes very competitive. But you've also identified your coaches at that level that are really the leaders that can do the mentorship, the coaches that can provide these instructions to the middle school kids and do that higher level of mentoring and teaching, even to the point where some of them they have their Bible right with them on the sideline, where they start off before the game starts.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And I love how you pointed out the coaches grow with the league, as well as it's a ministry opportunity for your church as well to minister to coaches as they grow too. I want to talk about to you, Jay. You have moved into all the way up through 11th grade. You and I've talked about that. Why do you think these older age youth want to play, and why do you think parents want this?
Well, I think we found a number of different motivators for these families, but certainly these kids love the game. They love the game of football and they want to keep playing it. They're not ready to go. They're getting up into the high school, middle school, high school age bracket, and maybe they don't feel confident enough to go out for the team, or maybe they went out for the team and they didn't make the team. As David pointed out, but they love the game. They want to keep playing it. They want to keep playing it with their friends. And I think that is the biggest motivator for students, for the kids to want to play. We have found something a little bit different with parents, at least some of the parents, who really see this as an important time and kind of a crossroads in the life of their teenager. And they realize how important this is. It is to have good influences and positive influences and spiritual mentors for their kids as they get older. I do want to read you this quote. This is from our end of the season evaluation. This is probably 2 or 3 years ago that a parent said this. But here's what they wrote to us in our evaluation. She said, "If possible, please extend your age range. Some kids don't want to make the switch to tackle football, but are not ready to be done. Having spiritual leaders and coaches continue to speak into their lives while in high school is invaluable. As they are beginning to own their own faith, knowing that others are out there really matters. To see others beyond their own church or youth group brings a greater sense of strength and belonging in their faith community." So here's obviously, this is a church family, but they see the value of providing a community, a network, a group of peers for their kids who are going to encourage them in their Christian walk and encourage them in their faith, as opposed to lead them in a different direction, in a different path. So that's a big motivator for us. Obviously, this ministry opportunity is tremendous for all kids, no matter whether they're coming from a church-going family or one that does not attend church or have a religious affiliation or a faith background. But that's something that motivates us in terms of serving these families.
So that motivates you guys. So if you're on here and you're considering, I don't know if I should take that next step. You just heard it here from Jay from a end of season evaluation. That's something that you could ask. Are you interested? And if you're doing it right, kudos to you guys on here right now. families look to you as they're leading that challenge, and they want their kids to continue to be a part. Let's sort of shift into this ministering to the whole family, ministering to the older athlete, continuing that. Co, I want to ask you this question of ministering and sharing the love of Jesus through sports is why we do what we do. That's why we're on here. We're looking at ways to continue to stay plugged in with that family, to connect with them. Speak to some ways that you see your middle schoolers. I know that's what you're very passionate about, is staying plugged into those middle schoolers. Speak to ways that you see these older athletes respond and to the gospel, and how they're open to learning more about Jesus.
Well, and that's what you see, especially with the middle schoolers, because at that time, they go from kind of like that elementary school grade to what we would call the middle school youth group, the high school youth groups coming right after that. They're getting plugged in with youth pastors on Wednesday nights. And these kids, they're talking to each other. So one friend will invite the other one, say, hey, Wednesday night, we're going to get together and we're going to play Gaga ball for about half an hour. And then we'll go into a Bible study. You want to come along? And they'll come along. And we do the same thing within our church, where we go to Northern Maryland over the summer, and we have a youth camp for boys and for girls, 2 separate camps. And these friends, they will invite each other as well to come to the camps, because that's where they build that friendship. That's where they build the value of fellowship, and they build lifelong friends. So they grow into that, but they grow into that learning more about Jesus while they're are experiencing these friendships. And what I'm noticing more and more is that even with the parents, they're building and forging friendships as well. So it's not just the kids, it's the siblings, it's the parents. When you're in a suburban area where we're at, we have a lot of young boys that, and girls that come out of single parent households, and they look forward to the time where they can spend quality time with their friends on the field, in the huddle, be with their coaches. And you can see it, because the cars pull up on the parking lot on a Saturday morning for the game, and they come running up on that field. They are just hungry for it. And we need to feed that hunger and that desire that's there. That's why this is ministry over sports. We're reaching kids for Jesus through the sports ministry. And that is ultimately always the goal you want to keep on the top of your list, because that's why we're doing this.
If you're not excited about the opportunity right now, hearing that, you need to pinch yourself, because this is there's so much opportunity. As a mom of a middle schooler myself, I look at that and I see kids looking for somewhere to play, looking for something to do with their time. They're also open to listen. Believe it or not, we say middle schoolers aren't listening, but they are looking for someone to tell them, someone to pour into them. They're looking for words of affirmation.
Mhm.
So this is such an opportunity to stay connected if you're offering that younger age group, or a way to revitalize your youth group and get kids plugged in. I love what you said, Co, about we do Gaga ball. It's huge. And then they go into right into a Bible study. This is a great way to plug the entire family in. I know we're wrapping up some of our time. I want to ask a couple more questions, because questions are coming in here as well. Jay, let me ask you this. This is a big question, and I know people on here probably haven't typed it in, but they're asking it. They're saying, hey, we have done kindergarten through 5th grade, and I feel like that's safe, because all I have to do is communicate to mom or dad or grandparent, and they get them to church and get them to the game, and there we go. Some church leaders or even league directors on here may be nervous about entering into this, serving the older athlete. They're worried about what might be said. They're worried about fights that may happen, language on the court or the field. What are your thoughts? How do you speak to that?
Your concerns about ministering to this older age group are certainly justified, I think, especially if your benchmark is other community programs that aren't faith-based. I have to tell you, aside from my biggest concern, which was that this would become hyper competitive when we started it, that proved not to be the case. And we have not had a problem with, language or, physical, fighting or anything like that. We haven't had any of that. Like I said, our experience with these older kids, at least in our league, has been that they just want to get together with their friends and play this sport that they love. So we have not really had much of that. Are we different than it? I can't imagine. But I will say, ministering to these older kids, we had to prepare different devotional material for these kids because they're obviously high school, and I understand Upward is working on material for older kids now, which I think is fantastic, and I'm anxious to see that. But ministering to this older group, I think it allowed us to get into some areas with them that we wouldn't have gotten into, obviously, with a K-8 set of kids, at least not in the same way. I'll give you an example. We talked about we had a devotion one time that was kind of devoted to sexuality and pornography. That's a tough area as a pastor for me to get into with these kids. It's not easy, but I really believe in my heart that these kids are not, even at home, a lot of them aren't getting, any input from parents about this stuff. They're certainly getting, the wrong kind of input probably at school. So I thought, hey, I'm going to broach this subject with these kids, and, I just think it's an opportunity that's missed if we don't tackle some of these harder subjects with these kids. So I was grateful for the opportunity to talk to them. For all I know, this is the only time somebody's ever going to talk to them about, the myth that pornography, conveys about sexuality. So, that if you weren't scared before, you're probably scared now, thinking about the prospect of talking to teenage boys about sexuality and pornography. But I really do think that's a niche. There's a vacuum there that we can fill.
I think you mentioned yesterday to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you mentioned 2/3 of your older athletes that play participated in the recreation league. So they didn't leave. They looked
Correct.
to you to tell them where to play. Is that correct?
That's correct. They or their parents came to us and asked us to extend this based on their experience. And you talked about earlier about whether there were differences in the way you structure your league or differences in the way you do things. We didn't completely revamp this thing for high school kids. They said they wanted to play this because I think they wanted to continue the experience that they had in the K-8 league. So we've made some tweaks here and there. We do our player introductions differently. For example, we don't have them run through the tunnel, although I continue to hold that out as a possibility because I think these kids never, they may be ashamed to admit it when they're 15 or 16, but they never really get tired of running through the tunnel. But we do more of a soccer intro now where you kind of stand in a line and the kid, as his name is called, he steps forward and that type of thing. We made some rule changes. We don't allow K-8 to return interceptions, for example. We are allowing our high school league to return interceptions. That adds an element of excitement to the game for them. We're beginning to talk about allowing the quarterback to run, but that remains to be seen whether we're going to implement that or not. But our older players are coming to us largely because they love the experience they had in the K-8 league, and they want to continue that the fundamental elements of that experience they want to continue. And and they're talking to their friends and sharing it with their friends too, and getting them to come and play too. So we see that as a win.
That's good. So that does lead me to say, if you're on here, you have to create an experience that others are talking about. You can't expect them to move on to an older age division if your younger age group is not what they expect, or not a great experience. So focus on that. You're exactly right. I want to go to Joel real quick, and then we're going to open for questions. Before I go there, though, I hope if you're on here, you can see the passion that is in each one of these leaders, their desire to share Jesus with their community, with older age kids. I hope that that's your passion while you're on here. Joel, I want to go to you for a second, and I want to give you time to talk about sort of like a sneak peek type thing, what's coming. We're talking about these older athletes. How are we going to serve you as a league director and come beside you so you have the right material? And then also tell me a little about what you see about structure. How do we go about this? Is it 9th through 12th? Share some of that with us, Joel.
Yeah, that's good. From a structure perspective, it's going to depend on your numbers. And so you have to see where registrations come in, but most people are doing 7th and 8th grade together, and then 9th through 12th, or maybe they're doing 7th through 9, and then 10th through 12th. And you kind of grow, as Jay alluded to, as your players age up, you can just continue to add grades. And so that's the easy way to add those levels. At the upper age group, you're usually 3 grades together, maybe even 4 with that 9th through 12, which has worked fine. From the perspective of kind of what's new or what's coming, a lot of this is based on what we're hearing now. And so conversations that you have with your rep, or if I reach out to you, that plays into where we're going with middle and high school. And so this late summer into fall, we'll start working on the devotion content again. And so our hope is to really bolster the devotion material so that it's something that's relevant to middle and high schoolers, and it allows for more discussion. So that's a big thing that we'll be working on. And then from a sport specific piece, what we've started to do is modify rules and even the evaluation process. So evaluations might include a scrimmage versus just straight up going through different stations. Basketball modifications, for example, a few years ago, we worked on level 4 rules, and we now call them advanced evaluations. And so we'll continue to update those. Soccer, we're bringing in a little bit of content to start with on 11v11, and Co helps out with that. So we always have some good conversations. Football, Jay mentioned a couple things with interceptions and running quarterbacks. We have some options there for rules. And then, of course, volleyball, a lot of that is focused toward middle and high school, and had really good success with that. The key is we will bring out some ideas, kind of work with league directors on how they work and how they're implemented, and get feedback on that, and then bring it out again. So the point with that is we won't have a final, like, here it all is, take it and run with it for the next 7 years. It will be, hey, we've tried this, we've heard from league directors, try it out and let us know how it works. We will also advise on that as well. So your regional ministry consultant will help you through the process of designing that experience for middle and high school age players that you'd like to have to reach your community. One last piece, I just say that, churches are always looking for ways to keep middle and high schoolers involved in their church, and sports is a way to do that. If you think, man, they could either be playing on a Sunday night or working at a job during the week and not have anything to do, you've got to explore those options that are there, whether it's Sunday or Saturday or whatever day of the week is. But if we want to keep kids in church, sports are a great way to do that.
Thank you for that. So if I heard you correctly, you feel the devotions will be available next basketball season?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we'll start writing that content in late summer into the fall. And so those will come back around for what we term as our 24-25 product year. And maybe we'll have some things to test and try out. So if you're a league director who says, I want to do middle and high school, what can you help me with? Let us know, because we want to work with you to help you do ministry in your community.
Great segue into questions. That was one of the questions I had on here that says, how do I get involved to be able to test some of this material out? Do they need to reach out to their rep, Joel? Do they need to reach out to you? What's the best way?
Yeah, so best way is probably through your rep because you know their contact information, and that would be the easy route. And then they will let me know, and then the three of us can have a conversation and see what you're wanting to do, and maybe experiment and try out some things.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna open it up to 2 or 3 questions here. Hold tight with me if you're still on. We're gonna do a drawing in the next 5 minutes, so don't bug out yet. Let's see here. Kyle says, comparatively, what do your numbers look like for older age groups? For example, are you able to run at least 4 teams in these older ages? Who wants to take that?
I'll take that. That's a great question. We started out in 2019 and we had 40 players, which was enough exactly for just about 4 teams. We skipped 2020 because of COVID. And then in 2000, we've been basically growing by 20 players a year since then. So we had 60 in 2022, and it looks like we're going to hit 80 this year. So yeah, we're going to have a minimum of 6 teams, maybe 8 teams to compete this year. But yeah, I think 40 for me is kind of 35 to 40 is kind of a minimum, to have 4 teams. I agree with you. You want to have 4. We do a little slightly shorter schedule than we do in the fall. We play 8 games in the fall. We're going to play 6 games in the spring. So
That's good. Other questions were, can we get Dr. David Pierce's slides? Of course, I will email that out to you. And then the last question we have, says, it's not really a question, but it's a comment. It's good. It says, this is fantastic. We've done middle school for 6 or 7 years now. We're starting to get more comments from families that they wish we would go through high school. That's from Brett. So I would say, Brett, if you're getting that, that's that plea that Jay just spoke about from his parents, I would say continue on. You are creating an exceptional program, apparently. So keep on. That's a great way for you to mentor them, plug them into your families. What were you going to say, Jay?
If they're asking for more, it's a good sign. It's a good sign if parents are asking for more. The other thing that we do with our intramural, our K-8 league, is when you age out of that program, we go back to those kids and say, hey, would you like to continue to be involved as a referee, as an assistant coach, helping out, setting up and tearing down and all that stuff. We try to get as many of these kids involved after after they've aged out of that fall league as we can. And that has been a tremendous blessing to me in terms of making it easier to find referees, but also I think to parents who love having a place where their kids can, earn a little spending money and be involved in an environment that they know is a positive environment with good mentorship opportunities available. So
thanks for adding that.
Yep.
That's so true. I do see Lucas has posted on here. It says, is anyone running adult sports? Lucas, for now, ours is kindergarten through 12th grade. That is what our curriculum and material is written for. I will tell you, a lot of these guys that are on here, I know I've seen Kyle Oakley and Greensboro, they run adult programming as well through their sports ministry. Not to say that Upward will never in time eventually maybe offer things like that. I would say Joel Flauher that's on here would be a great person for you to give some information to and what you're looking for. We value feedback. It is something that Joel does great, where he listens and he tries to implement what is there for you. Joel, anything you want to say to that? That's a great question, Lucas.
It's a really good question. I would say just continue sending those requests, because that kind of drives the direction of where we're going. To answer Kyle's question a little bit too about the number of teams, I've talked to some league directors, and they do their middle or high school outside of their normal season. And so that allows them more court or field space. And so there's a director in Maryland. They do a high school summer basketball league. Somebody in Oklahoma, they do all of their high school and middle school on a different night. And that's actually grown to their biggest division, are their high schoolers. So again, going back to the idea of kind of thinking about things differently, you may have to try different nights, a different time of season, and give kids an opportunity to play. And I think you'd be surprised about the number of people who are interested in what you're doing.
I agree with that. So if you're on here today and you're looking at adding this to your current sports ministry, you're doing kindergarten through 5th grade or kindergarten through 6th grade, and you're interested in adding this older division, and you're doing it well, I'd say do it, but think differently. I hope that's one thing you take away from this group today is you can't do the same thing for these younger kids that the older. I have one church partner that I've been doing a community hero with, and they are doing a basketball for older kids through the summer, trying to focus and give those older athletes something to do during the summer. Gary Alexander was supposed to be on here today. He is a wonderful league director, and he really focuses on the homeschool group of older age kids as their church hosts homeschool co-ops inside their school in their church there. And so he uses that as an opportunity for these older athletes. And that is thinking outside of the box. That is thinking of ways to reach children, not just in the way that we technically think of sports. So I hope that's one thing you take away from this. If you're a person or a leader on here, then you're saying, hey, I want to learn more, I would ask you to go to upward.org/church-leaders and schedule a call. We would love to customize your experience and show you some of the ways that people like Jay and Co are reaching older athletes. Okay, so now is the time to see who our winner is. And there's several people on here. And my handy assistant over here has given me Craig Robertson, North Point Church, Adairsville, Georgia. Craig Robertson, congrats. You are the winner of the Upward swag bag and 2 t-shirts. So Craig, I will be reaching out to you to send that your way. I hope you have enjoyed today's webinar. I am very passionate, like I said, of a mom of a middle schooler. I'm passionate about this age group and excited to see that we are moving in that direction to say, hey, we have focused on kindergarten through 6th grade. Let's move forward and continue to reach children and help mentor them, grow them, because before you know it, guess what? They're going to circle back around and they are going to be your next leaders of your Upward leagues. They're going to be your next leaders of your Upward basketball teams. So you have a huge opportunity. We have a high calling, and it is our job to step into it and not shy away from it. So I hope you were very encouraged. I want to say thank you, David, so much for your knowledge. You will be back.
It was good. Yep.
Thank you for joining us. And
Thank
you have anything else you'd like to add here closing?
I mean, I'm the director of a Sports Innovation Institute. So just, empathy is always the heart of innovation. All innovation starts with being able to empathize, and nobody should be able to do that better than people in the church, right? I mean, it is the calling card, particularly of the local church. So just use those empathy skills, right? You've got your post-event surveys, you've got your conversations, you can interview some people, but you've got all this kind of information, you're listening, you're observing, like that is always the heart of innovation. So, don't be afraid to put it all together and take that next step.
Thank you, David. And I will definitely have you on another webinar in the future. So continue to share your insights with us, and we'll pass them along. And Jay and Co, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
It's fun.
And Joel, thank you as well. I'm going to close this in prayer, guys. If you have an idea of, hey, I would like this topic to be covered in the next webinar, send me an email, send Joel an email or your rep. Reach out to us. We'd like to hear what you want us to talk about, and we will definitely cover it. Let me close this in prayer, and I hope you have a great day. Dear Lord, I am so thankful for the opportunity for sports ministry to impact communities around the country, Lord. As we enter into focusing as well on 6th through 12th graders, Lord, may we see that it is a need. Lord, may we fill the void. May we see this as another calling that we can now mentor a child from kindergarten all the way through high school, Lord, that in turn they will come back and serve through the local church. Lord, I thank you for Co and for Jay, Lord, for their wisdom, their knowledge, and their heart for their community. And Lord, for David, who does so much in working with sports around the country and sees the need, Lord, I just pray a special prayer upon him. And for Joel, Lord, as he speaks to churches and Lord, as he guides the direction of devotions and skill development here at Upward, Lord, I pray a special prayer for him and for each leader that is on this call, Lord, this today or listening to it later on. Lord, may they know that sports is but a tool to get into the lives of families for the purpose of sharing the gospel. We love you, Lord. Amen. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you have a great afternoon. See ya.
You.
Bye-bye.